What's up, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Game Time here on the precipice of Wild Card Weekend in the NFL. I am the Outlaw, Ja Morant, joined as always by the man who is sitting pretty at number 2 in the NFC over there with his Cowboys, Winston A. Marshall. How are you, brother?
Shoot, motherfucker. Let's go. I tried to tell y'all we were going to win that division. Y'all didn't want to believe me. Y'all were like, no, the Eagles, they got too much of an advantage.
I mean, who saw the Eagles imploding, which we're obviously going to talk about, but there's so much to discuss here as we go into the playoffs. Obviously, we're going to talk about the big Week 18 NFL games, which there weren't that many, and then we're going to get into our playoff preview and predictions and have some battles over who we think is going to be winning these playoffs and who we think might be coming out of this wild card weekend, and to challenge these other higher seeds heading into next weekend's playoffs. And we'll also talk a little NBA news, and of course, we'll talk about that asterisk national championship game last night between Michigan and Washington. We'll talk about all of that as well.
Are you still bitter?
I mean, when you steal signs, you steal signs. You know what I'm saying? Come on now.
I thought you were talking about y'all not getting into because if that was the case, I was about to go full Rick James. Nigga, that was weeks ago. I hit you tonight, Murphy. Like, just like, come on, man. You gotta let that go.
Winston,
but if what you're talking about is that,
yeah,
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I thought you genuinely were still upset about not getting in, and I'm like, bro, you got to let it go, brother, because you guys just need to focus on next year and what that means. It's over. I spent 4 days on Twitter going crazy on people about that FSU situation. It was a lot of fun, and it got crazy, but as you do with sports fans. But Winston coming in on to put his mud-laden boots on my white couch over here, telling me to calm down. Fuck your couch, Rocha. Fuck your couch.
We beat that dude's legs. Anyway, all right, let's talk. I love that sketch.
So good.
Charlie Murphy.
All right. I hit you tonight, Murphy.
Anyway, let's get into the NFL. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, the Streamlabs are open. Please send in your support for us here on the show as we go along. Would love to hear from you all. We took last week off because, unfortunately, I was sick, and I'm still a little bit, got a little nasal stuff going on. So if you hear that, I apologize. But what do you do? Are you pouring? What do you do? What is that?
I'm cleaning.
Oh,
I'm getting the dirt off my shoulder because we going, baby. We going to the gym.
Well, let's start off with the first game. And I didn't think I was going to get a chance to wear this shirt in the playoffs or celebrate the Buffalo Bills. Shout out to Del Reed and the Bills Mafia over there, 26 Shirts, who sent me this shirt weeks ago at the beginning of the season when it looked like Buffalo was going to be one of these Super Bowl contenders. They had a really rough season going into, I think they were 6-6 or something like that, or 5-5. They made a change with their offensive coordinator, and then they went on a run here, and they topped it off by winning the AFC East in Miami against these Dolphins on the road here, 21-14 the other night. And it was a heck of a game that I thought Buffalo, you saw the worst and the best of Josh Allen in one game here, Winston. Josh did his best to throw the game away against these Dolphins. But in the end, the Dolphins couldn't take advantage. All those whispers about the Dolphins unable to beat teams with winning records came back, and Josh Allen willed his Bills to victory there in that fourth quarter. So now they go into the playoffs. We're going to talk about their matchup a little bit later. But what did you think about this game between the Bills and the Dolphins? What do you take away from each of these teams heading into the playoffs?
I mean, a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that I think I would say is, and this is not just me being a hater.
Yeah. Okay.
This is how you make adjustments when your team is not doing well.
Right.
The Bills hit their unfortunate skid early.
Yes. In the middle of the season. Yes.
Well, not even that. You start off with a loss to an Aaron Rodgers-less Jets.
That's true.
I get they're riding an emotional high of, oh my God, we put all this money and all this, trade capital into getting Aaron over here as well as his dudes. We're fucked. Now we got to deal with Zach Wilson, right?
Right.
That's how you started. And like you said, they then went 5-5, and now it's like you're probably not going to make the playoffs. Josh Allen is a turnover machine, which he still is.
He still is.
I think the only difference here, because you know who else was a turnover machine this year? Jalen Hurts. Except while Jalen was converting them into wins, maybe at the start of that, we kept saying a couple things that the Bills looked good, but god damn, they got to figure their shit out. Whereas we were looking at the Eagles and we were going, they look terrible. They're holding on by a thread. And the big difference here is you saw two teams that were running into trouble. One realized with their back against the wall, they had to make adjustments, and they did. And the other didn't. And so you have to give Josh Allen credit here. People love to put him on this pedestal as like a top 3 quarterback in the league. I can't do it with that amount of turnovers because unless he genuinely, because the thing that made that difference for Favre, because yes, he made these crazy plays. Fuck him as a human. Just always have to say that whenever I talk about him.
Totally. Give the money back, Brett. Keep going.
Exactly. As well as a number of other things. Go fuck
yes, true. True.
But I say all that to say he eventually turned it into a chip. He eventually turned it into another Super Bowl appearance. He eventually turned it into like an NFC championship game that if the Saints aren't just that don't just have that edge, and people are going to go, oh, Bounty Gate, suck my dick. The Saints were a better team. The Saints, like Bounty Gate or nah, that team was fire. So I'm not going to even hear those arguments at all. And other teams do it. The Saints just got caught. My point is he turned it into something. What has Josh Allen turned it into? He hasn't turned it into an MVP. He hasn't turned it into a Super Bowl appearance and or win. So until that day comes, I don't care. I don't put him in that, because that to me is where like Lamar Jackson is infinitely better than Josh Allen, in my opinion. I obviously can watch what Josh Allen can do, and that's great.
Sure.
That's great. But it is not converted into something to hang your hat on. Lamar is about to have his second MVP. We do need to see him do more in the postseason because he doesn't do that, but he has that. Burrow has gone to a Super Bowl. Mahomes has multiple MVPs, multiple Super Bowl wins and MVPs. Those are the people that I put in that top 3 situation. So Josh Allen is no better than Dak Prescott to me, period. And I love me some Dak, and I'm going to be a little biased, and Dak is playing out of his mind. And I would rather, truthfully, have Dak over Josh Allen this season. But until the Bills actually do something, cool, you got your 2 seed, cool, it goes through you until you have to play Baltimore. But I just whatever. And as far as the Dolphins go, I said that a while ago. The Dolphins are Tyreek Hill. You do have Monster, not having him around that hurt, though a chain is super, super good. That 2-headed back beast of both of them strong, both of them quick. That's deadly. Not having Waddle, that hurts, but like the Dolphins defense has been gettable all season. The fact that we lost to them was kind of wild to me, but like watching that game, what inspired you to go, cool, you beat a winning team. You didn't beat us handily. You barely skated out of there. So like, I know IMAX is in here, and you know what I'm saying? Like, and the Dolphins, this is one of the best looking Dolphins teams we've seen in a while, but I don't have faith in them. And the Bills, I have at least enough faith in because I watched them rally from complete disaster this season. But again, I got to see it happen. I'm not afraid of a single team in the AFC except for the Ravens. And if you say, well, the Bills beat up on the Cowboys, I understand that. I understand that we have had issues both running the ball and stopping the run. However, if you notice, we did make adjustments. Every time we've gotten shellacked, we've made major adjustments, and it shows. And that's the other thing why I feel good about us. We still got to do it. But you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's where I'm at with the Bills and the Dolphins at this point, is like the Bills at that 2 seed are the best option to potentially beat the Ravens. But
it's surprising that they ended up with the 2 seed. Let's take a look at his numbers here with them. Winston, Buffalo, since starting the season 6-6. I misspoke there and said 5-5. 6-6. They've gone 5-0. They're 10th in the league with the points total per game, yards per game, 353 yards, 148 rushing yards, which I think has been the quiet reason why their offense has become so successful here over these last 5 games. 16.8 points allowed, which is 5th in the league, which is great. 276 yards allowed, which is 4th in the league. 9 turnovers that are forced, They won the AFC East and became the number 2 seed. I mean, it wasn't that long ago when people were asking for Sean McDermott's head. We're going to get into coaches' firings in a little bit here, but it wasn't that long ago that Sean McDermott was on the firing line. He made some comments about, like, we've been trying different offenses because we want to win in different situations in different ways. But it wasn't until they got rid of Ken Dorsey that they figured out what to do with that offense. They started to rely on the run a bit more, took the ball out of Josh Allen's hand, and found success. And so I think some of the worser feelings about that game, about that team came up in the game against Miami. But as Josh Allen said, they're a resilient bunch. And as you pointed out, they found a way to come back. They seem to find a way to come back. And that is a trait you're going to need going into the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Whereas Miami is suspect without Waddle. As good as the chain has been coming back here, Mostert has been great. Tariq when he gets open. But without Waddle, man, they seem to be a bit too one or two dimensional, and defenses can eventually figure them out. After they gave up those 14 points, the Buffalo defense just shut down Miami for the rest of the game. And so that tells you, like, they figured out how to play them, kind of like Washington almost did with Michigan until that blitzing in the end of the fourth quarter. And that's, they were figuring it out, but then, couldn't get the job done. Buffalo did. So I have confidence in Buffalo, but it's shaky confidence for sure, because winning 5 in a row is great. But once you get in the playoffs, man, things get tight. And Josh's ability to throw turnovers or fumble the ball, these are the things you brought up here, Winston. That's the dangerous thing with Buffalo for sure. Let's move on to Bills versus Chiefs in Buffalo. Sean, you think you're getting out of this round? That's cracking me up. Let's move on.
Wait a minute. You genuinely think that the Dolphins are going to march into Kansas City and they're going to win?
Well, we'll get to that. We got predictions coming up in a little bit.
Oh boy! All right.
Let's deal with your Cowboys. They won their division, the NFC East, our division, by walloping my Commanders, who had made it a little bit of a game in the first half, but then eventually just succumbed to the Cowboys. 38-10. Bro.
Nothing brought me more joy than that text thread between you and me and Ellis, because I'd be like, can y'all just roll over and let us have the division? You don't like the Eagles either. And at first you go, it looks like we kind of giving it to you. And then that interception happened off the tip pass. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And then the blocked field goal happened. I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
I was like, we're going to do it.
And no, you weren't. I never had fear that was going to happen, but I was just out here in these streets being like, guys, I need you to have some confidence going into this, which is why, because what pissed me off.
Yeah,
it was Greg Olson and whoever the commentator he does the with, and they're like, Brandon Aubrey, the rookie kicker of the year, 35 for 35, multiples over 50 plus. Man, what a record book season. We shouldn't talk about it. Might jinx them. Fucking asshats, bro. Like, I literally was like, are you fucking kidding me? Shut up.
Greg Olson tried not to talk about it, but you can't be a commentator and not talk about a situation. And the guy who was calling the game, he eventually did talk about it, and that led to the block.
But I don't think a block field goal should count. There should be some auxiliary stat that it's not a missed field. No, I'm serious.
It's a miss. Like, you didn't get it.
It has nothing, but that's the whole thing though. That had nothing to do with him. He's not the one blocking that line. In the same way that there should be an asterisk in the way you could have errors and stuff like that. So like a no-hitter versus a perfect game. There should be a way that you should be able to tell that stat with interceptions, because I think there's something to be said about these random balls where it's like, no. Scary Terry, like he kind of caught it, but then he bobbled it up and then just like handed it to Ron Bland. Like that's not on how. You know what I'm saying? That's where the receiver fucked up. I think there should be a way to differentiate them. So it like yes, you could still get you had 20 interceptions, but it's 20 interceptions over like 10 tipped / dropped passes. You know what I'm saying? Just something to differentiate, because that sucks. Like perfect season, that sucks, bro. But
that's the game, bro. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I hear what you're saying. But look, all the other times those people blocked people. I mean, they don't get credit for block. They don't get any credit for the field goal kicker making the field goal. None of the linemen get to put that in their stats. None of the linemen get to use that to negotiate for a higher contract.
It's all eye test with them, which is also wild, but that's a whole other conversation. And I see somebody saying that's what the QBR is for. Sure, I guess if you want to go that way, but guess what? That's not how people. That's kind of like when people are like, I'm trying to think of like a good example where they'll bring up something, but that has nothing to do with how we talk about it. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So like, yes, technically you have that whole QBR situation, but that's not when they talk about like say Dak, who actually had, despite all those interceptions last year, had a decent QBR. They're like, but he led the league in interceptions. The same thing is true with Josh Allen, where you could go, he's led the league in interceptions, and yet his QBR is still pretty high because he's putting up like 400 yards a game and 3 to 4 touchdowns. So it's like, yes, but we're assholes. You got to remember, there's no such like in this day and age, there's no such thing as nuance anymore. Right. So just give me something that I could hang my hat on instead of just being like, well, you have QBR, because people don't respect that in a lot of ways. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, coming out of this game, though, I mean, 38-10, a good dismantling of the Commanders, which of course led to Ron Rivera being fired, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But the Eagles on the other side got smoked by these Giants here and surrendered the NFC East. And you guys slid into the number 2 slot. You won the division. You slid in the number 2 slot. So
it wasn't that. It was the Cardinals lost last week. Remember, because all we had to do was win. If the Eagles lost, then we got it too. But all we had to do was win against you guys this week. So that was kind of all she wrote. I am more shocked, to be honest with you, and this is why I have no faith in the Eagles. This loss to the Giants was bad. But my God, you allowed the Cardinals to do what has been. So
the Cardinals? Okay, the Giants or the Cardinals? I'm confused.
They lost to the Giants. That's fine. Okay. They lost the division last week. Because again, we just had to beat you this week.
Yes.
So what the Eagles did last week,
agreed.
That they've been doing all year.
Yeah.
They do not put games away, or they leave enough of a gap that a team rallies. Yeah. And they were hanging on by threads. They hung on by a thread against the Chiefs because the Chiefs receiving core is trash. Sorry, Sean, it's the truth. Only you had that drop ball by an inch that would have had you win that. You know what I'm saying? Against that.
Don't give a fuck. Tony is not going to catch the ball.
Right. You had that. You had the situation with the Bills. Same thing. Barely skated out. And the Eagles want to be like, no, we're being the best teams in the league. Bro, you are barely. And it caught up to you. It caught up to you because now all of a sudden you started getting teams seeing the playbook, as Nick Bosa said, after the Niners shellacked the Eagles. Yeah. And this, I barely got to the end of the game. Shit ain't gonna fly, and the Cardinals embarrassed you. So now all of a sudden, this loss, this L we took from the Cardinals. Yeah, we both took a bitch. That's true. We were emotionally distraught. We had just lost arguably our second best defender on the team. We were distraught.
Well, to be fair, the Eagles had Jalen Hurts get hurt. They had A.J. Brown get hurt in the game.
You're talking about the Giants.
Against the Giants. Yeah,
I'm still talking about the Cardinals.
You're still talking about the Cardinals game? Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, they allowed Kyler they had that game in hand, and they allowed Kyler to come back multiple times that second half. The sons of bitches cost me my fantasy championship game because my opponent picked up Kyler Murray that morning, and Kyler Murray got himself 26, 25 points. If he had played his starter, which I forget who was starting for him, one of the lesser teams. Oh, it was Browning, and he would, or whatever his name is for the Bengals.
Yeah.
He only got 13 points. I'd have won. I lost by 11 points. I'd have won. So this is the situation here. I was so mad at the Eagles defense. But yeah, we'll see what happens with the Eagles against the Bucs. We're going to talk about that in a second. But certainly the Cowboys getting the job done, 38-10. Much respect to them. They took care of a division rival that would have loved to beat them, and handled their business. Yeah,
right. And last thing, because I see El Boogie, if I remember correctly, El Boogie is an Eagles fan, so he wanted to be like, "But y'all lost to the backup." I'm like, okay, so here's a couple things. First of all, Josh Dobbs went on a Linsanity run. Are you smoking crack?
Yeah,
because all of a sudden he was beating teams he had no business beating, let alone going to a team he had been there for less than 5 days. He'd been there 5 days and he won a game up in Minnesota. So to act like Josh Dobbs didn't have a moment. And again, we were emotionally distraught losing Diggs, who apparently was the lifeblood. Remember, in the preseason, everybody was like, oh, the Cowboys are going to fall apart, because you saw Diggs get in Dak's face being like, shape up, bitch, or whatever the fuck he said to him. That affects a team. You've seen that happen when Von Miller got hurt. I want to say for the Bills last year, they all of a sudden took a little bit of a slump slide because he had come in there to be that guy. People don't realize how that can really affect folks.
Yeah.
If it's mid-game, that's one thing, because mid-game you can see something like what the Jets did, be like, we got to do it for Aaron. But if it happened in the practice, whatever, you're going in not feeling great. Oh my God, is the defense going to be shaken? There's a difference between it happened before versus it happened mid-game.
Yeah, agreed. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with both those teams. We'll talk about the playoffs in just a second or in just a little bit. But the Texans also wrapped up a playoff spot here with beating the Colts 23-19.
Wow.
You take away one of their top receivers, and they still got the job done here. CJ Stroud coming back, having an excellent game to lead them to this victory. And I mean, you had some issues going on between Minshew and the coach there on the sideline, which I was really surprised to see. But CJ Stroud threw for 264 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nico Collins had 9 catches for 195 yards and 1 touchdown to take care of business there. But I mean, the Colts had Jonathan Taylor going for almost 200 yards, which tells me there's an issue with that Texans run defense that can be exposed here. And their receivers, none of them got above 50 yards total against these Texans. So in the end, I think the right team won here and won the division and got into the playoffs here in the Houston Texans. And Minshew Mania was fine for what it was for as long as it lasted. But in the end, too inconsistent of a quarterback versus someone who is up and coming here in CJ Stroud, who looks like he's going to be a superstar quarterback for these Texans. And shout out to DeMeco Ryans for turning the franchise around,
dude. That makes me so fucking happy.
Yeah,
that makes me so happy to see DeMeco Ryans win that. He better win Coach of the Year.
Yeah,
CJ Stroud better win Rookie of the Year. Yeah. Like, both of them have had an amazing season. Do the fucking Panthers look so wrong?
Yeah,
out for the direction that they went. Hopefully, you see Bryce Young figure it out.
Yeah.
But God, they look stupid for not going in on this kid, having that number 1 pick. So there's that. But I think the thing that's wild to me, man.
Yeah.
There was a conversation being had by Stephen A. and Unk about who do you take at quarterback in this league. And it's not to say that CJ Stroud is better than the top quarterbacks in the league. He's not. But to do what he did as a rookie with no weapons, essentially, you're talking about guys that are not bad, but they're not.
They weren't known.
None of them are making Pro Bowls right now. None of them. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. That's year 1. You know?
Yeah.
So and he made the playoffs. He won his division.
Yeah.
Bro, a division where Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be the guy. A division where, losing Anthony Richardson, I think, really fucked the Colts, because I think we might have been having a potentially different conversation, not in the sense that, the Texans would have lost, but I think the Colts would have been more in the mix than having Minshew have to lead you.
Yep.
You're really talking about it, and we expected more of the Titans. We were all very confused about how they went this year, too. Yeah. So, imagine a CJ Stroud on a Cowboys team with a CeeDee Lamb, on a Niners team. Can you imagine CJ Stroud with that Niners offense? Fuck a Brock Purdy. I already told you, Brock is fine. Brock will have a great career.
Wow.
Can you imagine CJ Stroud with that Niners offense?
I know, it would be interesting.
You're talking about Brady levels of wins.
Possibly.
That because you have a team that's stacked that he's able to develop with those kind of weapons. Yeah. That's at least 2 or 3 chips on his rookie contract, which is fucking crazy. Awesome. And then what happens? What clout do you continue to get from the Niners after that? That's Stroud looks so good. Now, that being said, Brown's about to fuck them up.
We're not talking about that yet. I was just talking about the winning division.
Just letting you know, they're going to fuck them up.
We're going to get to it. Don't rush. The Buccaneers won the NFC South here. Somebody had to win this thing, and the Buccaneers took it with a whopping 9-0 victory.
They didn't look like they wanted it, bro.
No, nobody wanted it, bro. And over these hapless Panthers, 9-0 here. It's funny, the last 2 games, after all this conversation started happening about extending Baker, giving him more money, lining him up for a big extension for the Buccaneers. They did win the division, but he has not played well over the last 2 games since those conversations have started. And that tells me he's back in his own head. Some guys are better being underdogs than they are being counted on. And that's just how it is in sports. Some guys are better at it than not, and I think Baker is one of these guys. It seems like when he's under the radar, Baker can really let it go and be relaxed. Mm-hmm. When he's looked on and the spotlight's on him, Baker puts a lot of pressure on himself, and it certainly felt that way over these last 2 games. But they got the job done with 3 field goals here, 9-0 over these terrible Panthers. So shout out to Baker Mayfield. Shout out to the Bucs for winning. It's the 3rd time I think they've won the division. I think they won last year as well under I forget the coach's name. Sorry about that, but yeah, under him. So shout out to him for sure. And anything you want to say about the Bucs coming out of this game? We're going to get to the Eagles Bucs, but they look a little suspect here with Baker Mayfield, brother.
Yeah, dude, that's the thing. They're all sus.
Todd Bowles. Yes, thank you.
There's not really a good team amongst a lot of these playoff teams. No, period. I'm being dead serious. And when we get to these predictions, I have a very narrow prediction set of how this is going to go.
Okay.
Now it's still the playoffs. Things change. People get nervous. People shift. There's all sorts of stuff. But I have more faith in some teams than others in how this is going to go down. And I just kind of feel honestly that as much as I love to clown the Eagles,
sure,
I don't think they're about to lose this.
Stop jumping the gun. I'm not.
I'm just saying you asked a question. I'll get into more specifics. Okay. Right, I'm teasing, Rocha.
Okay,
Come here.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in these Bucs coming out of these last 2 games. So where I had a lot of faith going into these last 2 games, I come out of these games I'm having a lot more questions about them, but we'll get to those playoff predictions in just a second. Let's finish off this first section of the show here talking about Jordan Love coming through for these Packers here, leading them to the playoffs here, 17-9 with a victory over Justin Fields and Jordan Love rather over these Bears, getting it done here, 17-9. Look, it's kind of funny how this has turned out to end the season. Aaron Rodgers, who the Packers traded away or let go, goes down in the first game of the season. Jordan Love, the back and forth with Jordan Love all season, wondering if he's good enough. And damn it, if he didn't lead the Packers into the playoffs. Didn't win the division. He was 3 games short with those Lions, but still got him in the playoffs. So you have Jordan Love, the understudy to Aaron Rodgers, going to the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers not even playing more than 4 plays in the season. So pretty incredible stuff. He threw for 316 yards here, connected with Dontavian Wicks for 2 touchdowns to get that wild card berth over the Bears. And the Bears have a lot of questions coming out of this game now, brother, because they've got to decide if they're going to keep Justin Fields or if they're going to pick one of these top quarterbacks coming out of the draft. And the Packers now seem like they've got their guy, Jordan Love, and they've got a stable of interesting young receivers who can grow with Jordan Love as well. So I think getting to the wild card, getting to the playoffs is great for this team with a little bit of seasoning here and a playoff experience. They're going to come back even stronger next year. What do you think about them handling their business here against these Bears and getting into the playoffs?
I mean, I expected them to win this game. If they didn't, then that said a lot about the Packers, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Because Jordan Love has been playing great ball this year. So yeah. I expected him to come up and beat up on the Bears. Regardless of the Bears surging, you have no business losing to this team.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so the fact that the Bears, if I remember correctly, didn't they beat the Lions randomly?
Yes. Yeah.
That should have never happened from a supposed Lions team that's supposed to be, I guess, a division rival. I'll never not acknowledge that. But the Bears just have not looked good. And the fact that they've spent all this time being we're going to get rid of Justin Fields. We're going to get rid of Justin Fields. You know what I'm saying? But I think there's a couple things. One, I don't necessarily think they should go after a Caleb Williams or anything like that. I think the Bears should take all that draft capital.
Wow.
Should maybe flip it into some shit and build around Justin Fields. I understand you've already had some years to look at him
right.
and whatnot, but I have always argued it hasn't been Justin Fields that's the problem. It's the coaching staff, it's the front office, and the fact that they just genuinely have not been doing things to get him in a position of success. What have the Bears really given to this team to make sure like Justin Fields is the top rusher on the team? That's crazy. I understand why Lamar lost his top 2 running backs. That makes sense.
Good point. Yes.
But what have you done to help this kid out? You haven't. The best thing you did was go get Montez Sweat. That's about it.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's smart on them. And then as far as the Packers go, good for them. The fact that you did this your first season out with Jordan Love, everybody expected you to not even make the playoffs. That's great.
And look at these Jordan Love numbers, brother. You were talking about how well he did this season. Jordan Love, 4,159 yards passing. 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. That's a great ratio. And a 62 QBR rating for 9th in the league. 9th. He's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. He played 17 games. Top 10 quarterback in the NFL.
I gotta give him credit, man.
Yeah.
I gotta give him credit.
And it's crazy because a lot of people felt that there were questions about him coming in to be the quarterback, right? That they were holding on to Aaron because they didn't believe in Jordan. They were holding on to Aaron because, sorry about that. ESPN. They were afraid to go with Jordan Love. And look how he's kind of learned as the season has gone along, despite Joe Barry's terrible defensive coordinator job that he's been doing this season. They've found a way to get along. The Bears, though, I don't think anything should change. I think Eberflus did a nice job once he got Montez, once he understood how to get this defense going. That was part of the surge for the Bears here at the tail end of the season. If they can carry that into next season and you get Justin some better weapons around him, I think there's a real possibility these Bears could be like these Packers were this year, sneak in and grab themselves a wild card next year if you stay with this kid. Because like you said, Winston, you got to give him weapons. It can't just be him constantly running around. They've got to find better weapons to surround him with. So I wouldn't change much with the Bears. It was a bad season to get in the playoffs, but there's promise. So I would try it for one more season and see what we get. What do you think? Do you think they should stay pat and just add weapons?
I think that they need to add weapons. I'm very curious. I'm impressed by Fields, and I remember saying when the Bears drafted him, I actually got sad for Justin Fields.
Really?
I know Peggy is a diehard Bears fan.
Peggy's in here, yeah.
She's in the chat right now. Yeah. The Bears have not done right by their passers forever. Name me a Bears quarterback that they have properly nurtured or drafted and made a thing. Not Trubisky, who has some talent, but they really ruined that kid. Not Fields. Not we can go far back as Rex Grossman.
You can go all the way to McMahon, for God's sakes, going back to the 1980s.
Jay Cutler might be the best thing that they've done, and Jay Cutler was never that guy. Jay Cutler was a poor man's Phillip Rivers.
Yes, he was.
You know what I'm saying? And so there is a situation where I also don't want them to get rid of Justin Fields, not only because I think Justin Fields actually has a lot of talent and could do something if he was put in the right situation. Yeah. It's also because I don't want them to ruin another quarterback. Right. I don't want them to ruin Caleb Williams. I would like Caleb Williams to go to a situation where he could develop and he could go be good. I don't want him. Hell, this sounds awful to say, and I don't actually want this. I would even prefer he go to fucking Washington.
No, I don't.
You don't want Caleb Williams?
No, thanks.
He already wears your colors, bro. He know how to rock. He know how to rock the maroon and gold.
I don't need a quarterback running into the stands and crying with his mom. I need a quarterback a little bit tougher.
Wow. So you one of those. Oh, I didn't realize you one of those. That's the first time you've ever showed your generational age, Rocha. I don't need no man that cries. I need a man that's a man. I need a man that's a man.
I'm not cool with my quarterback that cries. I'm cool with men crying. I just want this one position. You cried every other position. I'm cool with it.
Wow.
I don't want Caleb. Caleb has I love myself tendencies. And I don't like I love myself tendency players on my team. I really don't. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of anybody who's like that in real life. It just drives me nuts. So I don't like it when I see it on my team, and so I just have concerns about Caleb. That being said, this Case kid, I'm not sold on the Case kid either. So I got a lot of questions. I don't know where we're going to go in the draft because we got the number 2 pick. I don't know what the Commanders are going to do.
You got to try to take Penix if he goes for the NFL?
Yeah. After what I saw last night, no.
How was that his fault? My nigga had broken ribs, clearly.
And apparently a twisted ankle.
Broken ribs, a twisted ankle, an O-line not defending him. Like, you going to take that out on him?
Plus, they stole the signs. It can't be. Win that game.
That was over, Rocha. No, that was done. That was done. They found all the stolen signs. They were sitting in the bathroom in Mar-a-Lago. No, that was done. That was done.
Connor was sitting in the stands. Connor Stallions was sitting in the fucking stands. He was doing this jazz the whole night, Anyway, but yeah, we'll see. Yeah, exactly. Doesn't Mahomes love himself? Exactly. Hence my blood feud.
Dude, first of all, one should love themselves. Isn't that the first thing they say? You can't love someone else until you love yourself. So that seems.
Calm down, RuPaul. I get that,
but first of all, you're not gonna come for RuPaul like that, okay? That's a bad bitch. You're not gonna do this.
I know she's a bad bitch. I know. The Lady Outlaw has it on religiously. I get it. She's great. I love that show. But I'm just saying, I get that. But you can love yourself, just don't love yourself. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference.
Don't. So this is the thing. We actually were talking. Do you watch Hell's Kitchen?
Oh, Gordon, yeah,
love it, right? So have you been watching this season?
Show, brother. Yeah.
Have you been watching this season?
No, I haven't watched this season. No. You should catch up later. What's up?
Yeah. So there's this guy on there who he is maybe one of the most arrogant people I have ever seen in my life. If you're gonna be arrogant, you have to back it up. Otherwise, you're a cartoon villain. Yeah. And so that's kind of the whole situation. He'd be like, yeah, I've been an executive chef for 10 years. I've done this, I've done that. There'd even be points where you're supposed to base the steak, right? And he's out here like, what did he instead of doing that, he like put in the oven or some shit like that where he wasn't supposed to. And then when Gordon called him out on it, he goes, I did it right. I don't know what's wrong with you. And he goes, this is my kitchen, bitch. He even said at one point, he goes, it's either Gordon Ramsay's way or the highway, I guess. But that's not how the world works. And I'm like, and so that's a problem because you can't back it up.
Yes.
So if you can back up your arrogance, that's not arrogant. That's not fair. Cockiness. That's like, well, you the man. That's why when Richard Sherman back in the day, he's like, LOB bitches. Like, I'm like, yeah, you just stopped Michael Crabtree and showed him who was boss.
You know what? That's a better clarification of what I said. If you love yourself and you can back it up, I'm all for you. But most of the time, people love themselves a lot.
What was that dude? Josh Norman? You guys had him for a while. We're talking about somebody talking a lot of shit and couldn't back it up.
Oh, yeah. Drive me nuts. Someone said in the chat here, what if Jim Harbaugh went to Washington? It would be like when Alex Rodriguez became a Yankee. I wanted to put my head through a wall. I hated that guy. He was a cheating sack of shit. And when he came to the Yankees, I hated that he wore our pinstripes, and I hated that he won a World Series. I don't even recognize that World Series in my mind as a Yankees World Series. I really don't. I just hate that guy so much. And I know J-Lo knows what I'm talking about. I hate that guy so much, and I just don't like that he wore our pinstripes and won a title for us. I mean, I'm a captain guy. Jeter had all the confidence in the world in himself. Watch that 7-part documentary on ESPN. He is a cocky motherfucker, but he backed it up. He backed it up.
You just got to back it up.
Back it up. I didn't see Caleb back it up though, Winston. That's my concern.
You didn't see what Caleb? Yeah, he did for literally all of his college career until his team let him down. How much can the man do by himself? Because again, like there are exceptions to the rule. So like what CJ Stroud did, but he wasn't like fully like what Justin Fields won 7 games by himself, bro. By himself. Who there? Tell me who there. I'll wait.
I don't know.
Who is in Chicago?
Oh, in Chicago. Yeah, there's nobody in Chicago.
And he did that by himself.
Yeah. But they've got a good defense, so we'll see. I don't think much changes need to happen in Chicago. Give it one more season, and then we'll see what happens for sure. All right, let's take a quick break. And when we come back on the other side of this break, we're going to get into the big deal that's going on here this weekend for sure that we're going to have some fun talking about. And that is, tell us, Jim Mora.
Field where they score points.
Tell us.
Inexcusable.
Tell us.
Playoffs.
Tell us.
Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me?
Playoffs
game.
That's what we're talking about on the other side of this break.
Bro, that was what the Eagles played on repeat for the last like 5 weeks. Playoffs? We can't win a game. You're talking about playoffs?
We'll be right back right after this. Oh, man. Good stuff. Okay. All right. Let's get into it. Let's take a look at this playoff picture. This is the wild card weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. I will most likely do live watch-alongs of the games on this channel. So just know, most of the games I'll be watching along. I've already got 2 large pizzas ordered, 2 2-liter soda bottles ready to go. It is going to be a rough weekend. So I am absolutely going to be watching these games. But let's take a look at these matchups. We're going to go through. We're going to take a look at them real quick overall, and then we're going to get into them one by one. Here is the matchups that we have. Baltimore and San Francisco, of course, securing themselves the number 1 seeds. They'll play next weekend. But we've got Cleveland taking on the Houston Texans here in the game there going on in the AFC. Miami traveling to KC to take on those Chiefs. Pittsburgh going up to Buffalo to take Orchard Park there to take on the Bills. And on the NFC side, you've got the Eagles traveling to Tampa Bay to take on these Buccaneers. The Rams going into Detroit. The battle of ex-quarterbacks going to be happening there. And Green Bay traveling to Dallas there to take on the Cowboys. So let's get into this, Winston. Let's go one by one through these matchups and give our thoughts and our feelings about these games here. And we got Browns at Texans first. Joe Flacco, the miracle that is Joe Flacco, playoff Joe, coming in to Houston to take on these Texans and CJ Stroud. This is not going to be in Cleveland. It is going to be in Texas, or in Houston rather. So what are your thoughts going into this game? Can playoff Joe get into the time machine and do enough to lead these Texans to victory? They had played, I think, earlier in the year, but it was CJ Stroud was out with a concussion, and the Browns had won 36-22. But this is now going to be in Houston. Browns with a great defense, and Flacco figuring out that offense more and more every week. Didn't play last week, and then you've got Houston here with CJ Stroud and the rookie stuff we were talking about earlier. So what's your feeling about these two teams going into this game, and who's going to win?
Oh, I think the Browns are going to shellac the Texans.
Wow.
It's a fun story with CJ Stroud, and he will eventually get there.
Okay.
But let's just take a look at the Texans season, and let's talk about some of these elite defenses they played and how they completely crumbled. Open the season against the no, I'm serious. Open the season against the Ravens, 25-9.
Yeah.
Then the Steelers have a pretty vaunted defense, and you won 30-6. But I think in that case, that's more of a case of the Steelers' offense has been shaky at best. That was in the middle of their kind of what the fuck are we doing type situation. So I'll give you a pass there. Same thing with the Saints. The Saints have always had like a good defense, and they won that game 20-13. But Derek Carr, again, just being such a just dumpster fire most of the year, and want to all of a sudden be relevant in the very last game and score 41 fucking points.
Yeah.
Okay. But then you play the Jets, you lose 30-6. You play the Browns, you lose 36-22. When they go up against real defenses that can get he doesn't play like a rookie, but you see his inexperience enough that he can't just get over the hump, and especially with limited weapons there. So was this a nice story they won their division. They're going to get a home playoff game. D'Amico Ryans and Stroud are going to win their top awards in their categories. Absolutely. I think that's great. But I think Flacco, with his experience and the fact that he's playing like he's 5 years younger, with that insane Browns defense, and the fact that even though you lost Chubb, Jerome Ford has been stellar with the backing up of Kareem Hunt, who hasn't been great, but has come through in clutch moments when you need him. Amari Cooper having like a 200-yard, 2-3 touchdown game a couple weeks ago. I just think the Browns are going to be way too much for the Texans. So this is one of the few games I will call this early. I think the Browns have this without much issue.
Yeah, I think the Browns are that team like the Bengals were, where people were like, hey, I like Joe Burrow. They did a nice job. They got a good record. Let's see what they do. And I got a lot of promise in this guy. And nobody expected Cincinnati to beat Buffalo in the snow and then march into KC and beat KC and go to the Super Bowl. These Browns, and my friend Dom, who I had a salty back and forth with on Twitter, is a huge Browns fan. I had no faith in these Browns under Deshaun Watson and under that rookie with the 3 names. I had no faith in them. but Joe Flacco coming in. Joe Flacco coming in.
Joe Blacco.
Joe Flacco. That's playoff Joe.
That's playoff Joe. Joe Blacco. If all of a sudden you see him out here after every week, yeah, motherfucker, you know how we do, Cleveland Brown, baby. We come in here, we winning games and shit. Amari Cooper, I'm not gonna say it because he's my naysayer. You know what I'm saying? My naysayer out here catching balls. He out here catching balls. You know what I'm saying? And of course, my naysayer on the other side of the field, Miles Garrett. He be getting the quarterback, man. I'm glad he go after somebody else and not me. Joe Blacco, bitch.
Naysayer, please. Yeah, naysayer, please. I just have a lot of faith, and I feel like they're a little bit of a Cinderella team with Joe. It's leading them. I mean, and I think that's going to be a good story. And that Browns defense is hungry. And the best thing you can give a great defense is a quarterback that'll keep you off the field and score points. And that's a great thing for the defense because they can stay rested, they can stay hungry, get back in the game and take care of business. And I think the pressure of this game is going to get to CJ Stroud. If they shut down the Collins, then how many other receivers they got lying around, because they lost Homie a few weeks ago to that injury for the season. And so they don't have a lot of other receivers they can go to. I think it'll be tight initially, the first maybe quarter, second quarter, it'll be tight. But then the Browns will eventually just kind of smother the Texans here and take the victory on the road, which is going to be great to see for Cleveland and for Flacco. So.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I can't give you a score, but I think that the Browns win by at least 2 possessions.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Sure, that sounds. I mean, maybe.
So it might be only 9 points, or 10 points, but like a two possession game for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, let's move on to the next game here that we have on our list, and that is the Miami Dolphins, heading up to Kansas City to take on what's left of the Kansas City Chiefs here. Tua versus Mahomes. Of course, we talked about Miami without Waddle. You've got the Chiefs here who didn't even play Mahomes or Kelsey, I think, in the final game this past Sunday. So they're a little bit rested. But, man, this is a weird game, Winston. I don't know where to go because there's so many flaws on both of these teams.
I agree.
And both of their defenses are good. So I have no idea.
No, they're not.
I think the Chiefs defense has been damn good this season. And I think the Dolphins defense is good.
The Dolphins defense is not good.
Wow.
They are not good.
Okay.
Dude, Ramsey is a shell of himself. I love Jalen, and there are moments where he's doing a good job, but like, you know how there'd be moments where like you would look at Diggs or Bland and like they would give up a really big play, like a touchdown or something like that. Yeah. But then the difference is like the next time they're up, they're forcing a turnover or a pick six or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Ramsey hasn't really had a lot of those in recent memory, and he started off injured, so he didn't play the first half of the season.
Yeah.
So he's done a pretty good job of holding people down, but he hasn't become a difference maker.
Yeah.
That is a problem. They brought him in to be a difference maker.
Right.
And so that's my only thing. So here's the thing. The better offense is the Dolphins. The better defense is the Chiefs.
True.
The difference here, though, even without those receivers, I trust Patrick Mahomes infinitely more than I trust Tua.
Fair point.
Tua is fine. Tua literally has been Tyreek Hill. Let's just be really honest.
Yeah.
He has been Tyreek Hill. That is what, like, he never should have been in the MVP conversation in my book, but because of how it works, if Tyreek Hill has 2,000 yards, that's 2,000 passing yards that came out of Tua most likely, unless he had been out and the backup was doing that. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I trust Mahomes more, and I trust that Chiefs defense. Mm-hmm. The only thing I can hope, and Patrick not paying this last week and all that, I really hope he has been out there in the field again with these receivers trying to figure it out, because if they have not, they will beat the Dolphins, and then the Bills will beat them the fuck up out the playoffs. Okay. But if they have, then the Chiefs are still the Chiefs with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, and now a defense led by Chris Jones. With Chris Jones. You know what I'm saying? So
for Kansas City. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing that I go back to, because of course you make a good point here with the defense of Kansas City. Steve Spagnuolo has done a wonderful job with that defense. He knows how to short circuit quarterbacks. We saw Josh Allen lose his shit multiple times against that defense. because of what Spagnuolo can do. You had Burrow almost. He had Burrow last year, but didn't have him last 2 years ago. But he's a good coordinator for kind of shutting down certain types of quarterbacks. Remember, they played in Germany, and it was a 21-14 game. The Dolphins I think the Dolphins were storming back, but Tua blew it on a number of occasions there at the end of the game when he could have tied the game up. He threw costly interceptions. He looked completely out of sorts. So but what they discovered, I think, in that game was that their run game can do some damage to this Kansas City defense. So and they've been leaning on the running game more and more over the last few weeks.
Yeah,
and they have to because they have to, right? So I think if they go in, and this is going to be maybe sacrilege to the AFC people, but if they go in with an old school NFC East mentality, which means you're going to drag this game into the mud and the dirt and the slop and the slime, and you're going to pound the fucking ball over and over again with Tua getting maybe 130 yards passing the whole game, you've got a shot to win this game. If you can grind this game down and have extended periods of time where you're keeping Patrick off the field, I think there's a possibility here where you can grind this team down. And here's the thing. Pressure is going to come to these receivers. You think the regular season was pressure? Imagine the playoff pressure on Kadarius Toney. Imagine the playoff pressure on these receivers when the stands are going crazy and booing and whatever. God forbid Kelsey gets hurt. I'm not wishing that, but he's, been he's had injuries this season, or Patrick gets hit pretty hard. Who knows what can happen? So I give Miami the edge here. I do. I think the offense is going to figure out the defense. I think they've got better working parts overall, and they'll get the job done. But I think it's going to be close. I just think Miami is going to eke it out in the end, and Kansas City is going to do some good self-evaluation after the season.
I think experience over youth here, and I think also from the standpoint of just looking at some of these potential injuries of people that are questionable as of right now. Kadarius Toney, Justin Ross, Donovan Smith, the O lineman, and then Snead, the corner for the Chiefs. But you already have Cameron Good, Jerome Baker, and Andrew Von Ginkel, all three linebackers for the Dolphins out. And true. Xavier Howard and Waddle are both questionable. They're supposed to be back in time for this game. But again, if either of them, especially Waddle, is gone, great. Double, maybe triple team. Like literally do what people have done to Kelsey all season. Double, triple team Hill, depending on how you need to. And then, okay, like, yes, you need to keep an eye on the running game, but that's Tua's only target.
Yeah, true. And as much as I said about Spagnuolo, you got to look at the other side of Mike McDaniel, who's an offensive genius. Is Mike McDaniel?
Wait. I forgot the Dolphins have Eli Apple, bitch. That's the new age Josh Norman. The Dolphins are fucked. I didn't realize that Eli Apple. Why do you think poor Bengals? Remember when they got to the Super Bowl? Eli Apple, bitch, and then he got embarrassed by the Rams.
It's true. But yeah, I mean, this is can Mike McDaniel lay out an offensive game plan that will counter whatever Steve Spagnuolo is doing. So I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a fun game.
It's going to be a fun game for sure. But
right.
3 degrees. Don't forget that too. And the Dolphins, being a warm weather team, bro, they did not do well in Buffalo when it's cold. So that is another thing.
Sean said it's going to be 17 degrees below zero in KC on Saturday. Sweet.
Wow.
Mary.
That must be with the wind chill factor, because the current AccuWeather I'm seeing says it's 3 degrees, but it must be minus 17 with the wind chill. That's crazy.
I mean, you're arguing semantics going from 17 to
3 to negative 17
it's going to be cold, bitch. Basically, it's going to be cold.
Yeah, but Rocha, one is I got stabbed, the other is I got shot. Like, they both suck, and it both depends on how it hits you, but one is significantly worse.
That's true. But we'll see, and the Tua, of course, could be dangerous. Tua, with that history of concussions, having his head slam off that hard grass.
He better judo his ass all game. Jesus Christ,
that could be bad. Chris Jones ain't no joke, man. He will take you down into the world, into hell. So we'll see. So I've got my beliefs that it is going to be Miami, but would not be surprised if KC wins, because as you said, Mahomes has all kinds of experience. When people doubt him, it looks bad. He finds a way to get the job done. it'll all depend on how that goes down between the offense and the defense, which will be fun to watch. All right, let's move on to our next game here, and that is the Steelers visiting Orchard Park. They're taking on the Buffalo Bills. Mason Rudolph versus Josh Allen, and we just found out that C.J. Watt is out for the Steelers, having torn his ACL or twisted or strained his ACL. I think he is out for the game, and Mason Rudolph will be the quarterback. They've been riding him for the last 3 games here into these playoffs, taking on Josh Allen. So what are your thoughts on this one, Winston? Who you got here, Steelers at Bills?
I am going to take Buffalo for a number of reasons here. I mean, the first is, when have we really felt super great about the Steelers this season? While the Bills have given us cause for concern, we have seen when they turn it on, they turn it on. Josh Allen still has over 4,300 yards, 29 touchdowns, over a league worst 18 interceptions. But let's just go bar for bar here. Allen definitely over. Who'd you say is taking over for Pickett, or is it Pickett that's going?
Mason Rudolph.
Allen over Rudolph all day.
Yeah.
I'm taking Cook over Harris all day. I love me some Najee Harris, but he just really hasn't been that guy. And I think a lot of that has to be like, if you have inconsistent quarterback play, then fine, stack the box, you know? And then while there is clearly some sort of riff between Diggs and Allen, because you even saw how he kind of just gave him a quick dap and kept it pushing during that game. And I don't know if Diggs will remain there after this season. He might ask for a trade. I don't think his contract's up, but he might ask for a trade to get up out of there. And he might go find a
heartbeat.
You just get it. You get another number one. Yeah. Let Stephon come down to Dallas, bro. Come play with this, bro. The Stephon and CD Lamb. That's what dynasties are made, bro. Like that's crazy. That's Jamar Chase Waddle. Jamar Chase Higgins shit. Winston, that's crazy.
Winston, you're trying to talk like, are you insane? Stephon and CD in the same. That's like dating 2 of the Real Housewives at the same time in the same season. What's wrong with you? That makes no sense. Too much drama, and they're gonna turn on and set you up.
I genuinely don't think so, because like look at what Cooks did for us this season. I was very judgmental and I didn't think he was going to do it, but look what Cooks has done this season. Now take someone of Stephon Diggs' caliber to continue to be that deep ball threat.
Sure,
that can run routes,
right?
And then let CD, you can move CD the inside, outside, doing all the dude. That's Ayuk and fucking Debo.
You can't play this like Madden. Yes, what you're saying works in Madden.
Smith and Brown. Like, I know that you guys are good, but that tandem is crazy. Yes, you can. Do you not remember?
Because in real life, Stephon is going to be like, I'm not getting the ball enough. Dak's not doing enough to give me the ball. Not
when your brother's there to check you. Shut the fuck up, bitch. We're winning games. Not when your brother's there to be like, shut the fuck up. You just got 150 yards and CD got 200. Both y'all niggas went for 350 and 3 touchdowns. I need you to be quiet. Like, I think it would be great. But like, again,
I don't know what their brother issue. I don't know what their relationship is like. The Duffer brothers just broke, or the what do you call those brothers just broke up. Those filmmaker brothers just broke up. So I don't get involved between brothers, man.
I mean, I get it. Well, the one thing is they've been good for balancing each other, because there is a really famous story about Trayvon when he got moved to corner at Alabama. He was extremely upset and was like, fuck it, I'll just quit football. And Stephon got to him and was like, nah, that's one of the best coaches to ever do it in Saban. If he has put you at defense, it's because he sees something special in you. He's not saying that you can't be a wide receiver. Cool. He's saying he sees something different. And what he saw differently, because Trayvon had played wide receiver his whole career up to that point.
Right.
He took some of those wide receiver eyes and even hands, because he's got very good hands.
Yeah.
And he turned it into being a defender. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And so that's why you see him get so many interceptions is because he plays defender like a wide receiver. So like I think that'd be cool, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about the Bills and the Steelers.
Winston found a way to make it about the Cowboys, but
always. But I genuinely just the Bills team just has too much firepower. You do have Josh Allen, who I'm not going to put him in the category of those top 3. I just don't. There's been too many question marks. I need to see him do something, like actually do something.
Yeah,
like in the way that we would talk about Peyton Manning, and we go, I mean, yes, this guy's incredible, but you got to do something.
Yeah,
I feel the same way here. So if he does something, we can have a different conversation, but I do trust him more and that team than I trust the Steelers. I love me some Tomlin. I'm glad that this will probably protect his job, because I know he was in the hot seat for a minute if they didn't figure it out. But that's it.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I got Buffalo winning this game as well. I'm thinking 31-17 will be the end score here. I think I think the Steelers are going to make it a little bit of a game, but in the end, Buffalo just has too many weapons, and they're going to be at home, and that pressure and the screaming of the fans, I think it's going to get to them, and the hunger of those fans to will the team to victory is going to get them. And I think you're going to get a really great game from Josh Allen. It's going to be the concern. Josh Allen's going to be the concerns as the playoffs go on, as he moves into the more tighter and more difficult situations and the pressure-filled situations. I think that's where you're going to have questions about Josh Allen. In this game, I think he's going to figure out that Steelers defense. But remember, a few years ago, Steelers went into Buffalo and won that game, and nobody expected Pittsburgh to win that game. But I think being without C.J. Watt is a massive blow to that defense.
TJ,
no matter what he's doing on the sidelines, cheering him on, it's not the same like being in there and messing up Josh Allen.
Who's going to go get to Josh?
Yeah, exactly. So I think in the end, they're going to get the job done. The Steelers will quit themselves well, but I think Buffalo is going to handle their business there.
And the final part I'll say about that too, remember, Buffalo has essentially been in the playoffs for like the last 5 weeks. So they've already got a playoff mentality.
Great point.
And so I think that is going to be a massive edge for them, including if they genuinely do make it to the AFC Championship game, and we expect them to meet Baltimore there. I still have Baltimore winning it, but that shit ain't going to be close.
No.
That might come down to a final play type situation.
And both of them have a propensity to throw interceptions or make mistakes in critical moments, both Lamar and Josh. So we'll see. All right, let's move on to our next game here, and that is the Packers at the Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? The curse is over. Jimmy Johnson in the Ring of Honor finally, and the Cowboys getting a 2 seed now, welcoming their old nemesis, the Green Bay Packers. So any chance that Jordan Love leads an upset over a Cowboys team that is feeling the pressure to win this game? Remember, nobody gave San Francisco a shot to beat Dallas and Dallas in the playoffs with Garoppolo as the quarterback, and they got the job done. Do you think the same kind of tightening of the sphincters will happen in Dallas, or will they? Is this a different season, a different team, and they're going to take care of business against these Packers? Winston.
We live and die by Dak. You have the best. I would say at this point, I understand that Tyreek Hill is still Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
But you have the best wide receiver, if not in the game, at least in the playoffs. Like if I'm just looking at, let me look at the playoff teams again really quickly. So
I can put them up.
Better than, I got it right here. So better than Flowers and Odell.
Okay.
Better than Amari Cooper. Better than Nico Collins. I would argue better than Tyreek Hill right now.
Okay.
Better than anybody on Kansas City.
Yeah.
Better than any of the receivers on Buffalo or Pittsburgh. I love Stephon Diggs, but when you're especially throwing in that there's a chemistry issue, better than A.J. Brown and Smith. You could make an argument for Nakua, but again, CeeDee Lamb is making grown men look like little boys the way he's just like embarrassing them and breaking ankles. Better than all the receivers on Green Bay. The only argument you might say is somewhere in between, maybe with Debo, but he's starting to do things that Debo does. How many times have we rushed the ball with CeeDee Lamb at this point? Like CD, let me pull up his stats super quick. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, CeeDee Lamb has like 500 rushing. That might be too much. Let's see. Rushing. Sorry. That's receiving. That's not what I asked for. There it is. He had 113 rushing yards this season, so it's not that much, but he had 2 touchdowns off of it.
Right.
One of them was a 24-yard long rush. Like, he's starting to mix that up in there too, just to mess with people. Yeah. So like, I think that our defense is playing very well, but I think Jordan Love is playing incredible ball right now. Yeah. So I think it's going to be close, but I still think that we will ultimately win by 2 scores. I think it'll be a situation where we maybe hold them off by, say, a touchdown for a while. Yeah. We seal it with like a field goal in the last amount of time, and the Packers aren't going to be able to overcome that. I give the Packers enough credit that I think that offense will score, but I just don't think that Packers defense is good enough to stop Dak and what he's doing right now.
I think it's going to be fascinating because, here's Mike McCarthy taking on the team that fired him after he'd won them a Super Bowl with Rodgers.
Years prior. Don't do that.
Years that they still fired. And so it could be the same team that is ushering McCarthy out of another job if they beat Dallas in Dallas. So very interesting situation. Joe Barry the defensive coordinator for the Packers, likes to call a lot of cover 2, cover 4, cover 6. These are the defenses that give Dak some trouble. So I don't think this is going to be a wipeout. I think a lot of people are feeling like Dallas is blessed this year and they're going to, just going to steamroll through the playoffs. I got a feeling this one is going to be tight, real tight. And Jordan is playing with house money. He's got nothing to lose. And these young receivers are going to have some fun out on the field there. And so if they go in with that attitude, I think Green Bay is going to have some fun here. Now, Joe Barry, not the best defensive coordinator, right? So, but he's playing an offense that he can coordinate against with his proclivity to call the plays he likes to call against defenses. So it could come back to bite Dallas in the ass. But I do think Dallas is going to take care of business. So they probably win by 10 points, but it's going to be a lot tighter than people think for a majority of the game. And I'm going to wonder if the pressure is going to get to these Cowboys, or if this is the game where they have to get to that pressure and then deal with the pressure and overcome the pressure so they can have the confidence to go forward that they can get the job done in the next coming weeks.
I'll put it to you this way. It's going to come down to a couple things that will really determine it. The first is, you mentioned all these young receivers.
Yeah.
Are Green Bay going to be there with their full receiving core? You've had
I don't think Christian's going to play. I don't think Christian.
He's estimated to return, but again, it's been very up and down. All of them have been hurt, and that actually makes me wonder: is it the wide receivers coach isn't doing a good job of telling them how to protect themselves, or is Jordan Love putting them in danger? Because that's the other thing that I haven't watched close enough of those games. Is he putting in passes that are getting his receivers lit up? Yeah. Because as much as we were shitting on Brady for his comments about the quarterback play, and I do think he was a little off base there.
Yeah.
The one thing he said that actually kind of rang true: you have to stop putting your receivers in danger.
Yeah.
And I need to go watch film on Love to see, because to have that many receivers get hurt is the same reason we were talking about San Francisco. Why are so many of your quarterbacks getting fucked up?
Yeah.
How do you get to the 4th quarterback in the season and he gets hurt? What the fuck is going on? So it's the same thing. It'll be interesting to see. And I really hope that Gilmore's fine. It sounds like his shoulder got dislocated. They popped it back in.
Yeah.
But I hope he's good. And then our line, I am a little nervous about the line. I would almost prefer, if they feel like they can handle it without them and they're not ready, let them wait a week. But remember, 16-0 at home right now.
Yeah, true. You guys got it. Like, I mean, honestly, if the Eagles had won and you guys had to go on the road, if the Eagles had won against Cardinals last week and then won again this, and you guys had to go on the road, it would have been an interesting conversation at that point. So yeah, so you guys got the job done, and we'll see. But Jeremy's saying that's why they watch film, figure out the defensive schemes he's throwing at them. Yeah, Jeremy, they all watch film, and yet they all get smoked. So, it's not watching film doesn't do much if you don't put that stuff in practice, and the speed of the game gets to you in those moments. And even if you're not making those micro decisions, it can come back to bite you. That's how the great teams end up winning games. Let's take a quick break before we get into the last games. We've been going on for 30 minutes now. So let's take a quick break. We'll get into the last 2 games, talk about other sports stories going on this week right after this. All right, Winston, let's get into these last 2 games. Rams at Lions, the LA Rams traveling to Detroit. This is former Lions quarterback Matthew Stafford going home to Detroit to take on former Rams quarterback in Jared Goff here. Sean McVay, former coach of Jared Goff there, coming back with his Rams to take on these Lions, and the Lions hosting their first playoff game in decades there in Detroit, or in many, many years rather, there in Detroit. So what are your thoughts here? Do you think Detroit has the edge? Do you think McVay having more experience in the playoffs, Stafford being a Super Bowl winning quarterback, what's going on with their star rookie wide receiver? Do you think they have the pedigree to pull off an upset here in Detroit against these Lions?
Oh, dude, I think that the Rams are going to shellac the Lions.
Wow.
Yeah. I think the Rams are going to win by 2 touchdowns.
What? Yeah. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me the logic behind this.
Most of the Rams' losses really earlier this season, you're talking about a lot of injuries. You're talking about a lot of just them not playing up to snuff. They tend to be a slightly older team, if you remember, because they essentially put the Expendables together to win that title.
Yeah.
And you were barely crossing the finish line there with Miller out here trying to do some disruptions. Odell Beckham with the knee going out, but all that being said, Matt Stafford not only being one of the better quarterbacks to play in the last few decades, he just was ended. There's a reason why he had to kind of leave Detroit to go get it. But you're talking about one of the greatest young coaches in Sean McVay, who has twice been to the Super Bowl now, one that he won. You had Matthew Stafford again. I trust him infinitely more than Goff, even though Goff has had technically a better season. Stafford was out with a few injuries there. And while having Nakua, has not had the same potential firepower as the Lions up front when you're talking about that run game, when you're talking about Amon St. Brown and Laporta, who is a complete game changer for Detroit. However, then when you go back, that Kylan Williams has really fully come into his own and ended up with over 1,100 yards rushing this season. You have both Nakua, who you could argue is actually the rookie of the year. You can go back and forth with Stroud or Nakua, to be honest with you. But if Kupp is fine and doing his thing, Kupp and Nakua, that's insane to deal with. You know what I'm saying? With Kylan also being there, and then Stafford just playing almost a home game for him. You know what I'm saying?
Because where he applied his trade. Yeah, for sure.
So you're talking about, truthfully, a home game for Stafford, a pedigree for a team that has been to the Super Bowl twice within the last decade, one win, and a team that is obviously super proud of themselves for winning a division, and they really have started to turn this organization around.
Yeah.
But I just have this weird feeling, because when we've seen these random collapses with the Lions on these 5 losses, I was like, where the fuck did that come from? I can at least explain some of the Cowboys losses. I can explain some of the Chiefs losses.
Yeah.
Those make sense. I couldn't always explain the Lions ones. I was like, how, Sway? So I think the Rams are feeling themselves on top of, yes, you played backups in the Niners, but you played the best team in football. Arguably, it's either them or the Ravens. You beat them. Backups or nah, they're feeling themselves right now. I think that this is a trap game for the Lions, and the Rams take it by 2 touchdowns.
Okay. I disagree with you vehemently.
That's fine.
I think the Rams are coming in, as you said, and I said, the young receivers. Young receivers get nervous. Young receivers get edgy.
They're one young receiver.
Huh?
One. You act like Cooper Kupp ain't gonna be out there.
I remember him.
Bitch. With your dinosaur fossil ass.
I remember Cooper. I just think that the Lions have been waiting for this for a long time. And not just the Lions. Jared Goff. The last time these teams played each other after that trade, Goff got destroyed and embarrassed. And so I think this is a critical game in Jared Goff's career. Jared Goff, if he wins this game, he upends the narrative about himself, upends the narrative about how he was a McVay product, and really establishes himself as a quarterback to have name recognition. And a lot of people feel like, because of what happened in that Super Bowl and he fell apart in that Rams deep, which I think was about the running back, not so much the Rams. That situation just kind of bit them in the ass, and Goff didn't get a chance to get the job done. Well, let's go get Stafford. He gets the job done for us. Barely, because remember, they squeaked by the 49ers and squeaked by the Bengals. It wasn't a decisive Super Bowl victory. So to me, you've got a Lions team that is hungry, hits hard, is driven. They're at home. They got the fans behind them. And I think Dan Campbell, if you watch that Hard Knocks season, Dan Campbell's the kind of guy who will make you run through a wall for him. So I think this team is going to be ready to smash these Rams. I actually think it's going to be the other way. I think the Lions are going to crush these Rams 31-10. I think it's going to be a very, very long day for Matt Stafford as a quarterback there against these Lions. And remember, Stafford choked a lot of times in Detroit as well. So
because look at the organization he was stuck in and stuck around. That's why he had to get the fuck up out of there. That's why Calvin Johnson arguably Megatron could have been the greatest receiver of all time. Said, "No, I'm retiring early."
But none of those were under Dan Campbell. Not Barry Sanders.
I understand that, and hopefully Dan Campbell really is turning them around, because I do like the Lions. I do, but there's just something in here that's making me go, "Oh no, bro." On top of the fact, And this is where now my selfishness might have taken my. They'll win by a field goal. They're going to win by 2 touchdowns. Pushed it in that direction is from the standpoint of. Let's go ahead and take a quick look. You want to bring the standings back up for me real quick?
Standings. What do you mean, the matchups or what?
The matchups? Yeah.
Hold on. Boom. There you go.
So if you see there, let's go under the guys. Let's say that everybody wins their games, right?
Yeah.
All the home teams. That would mean that Tampa Bay plays San Francisco. Fuck that. I don't. Is that you?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know you did it on purpose. I don't. That's actually kind of cool. I don't need Tampa Bay playing San Francisco because they'll get destroyed. But the Rams playing their division rival, they go to Santa Clara and they can kind of hold their own.
Yeah,
they have a shot to potentially like take out San Francisco for me. And even though I think we're a different team and we can maybe handle them, I don't want to play San Francisco. If they can get defeated before I get to the NFC Championship game, I'm happy with that because I have an actual shot of going to a Super Bowl. But I don't want to do it. So if the Rams beat the Lions, they become the lowest seed, which means that that's who San Francisco plays. Which means that then we would end up playing the winner of Philly and Tampa Bay, and I think we can handle either one of those teams. I think we can handle the Rams too. I'm not worried about them personally.
Okay.
But they have the secret sauce to try and stop the Niners.
Yeah.
So I want the easiest path to get to the goddamn Super Bowl, bro. That's what I want. That's what I want.
And that's fair. There you go. You heard it from Winston A. Marshall.
It's not that I know that we're going to lose. While there's a part of me that wants to vindicate ourselves for the Niners, and I think it'd actually be a better practice run that if we then have to take on the Bills, who we did not do very well against, or the Ravens, who look terrifying.
Yeah.
So there is a way of being sharpened by iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
That whole thing, or pressure makes diamonds.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that's like, I still think we can handle our business and do that. I just, the Niners, it's just this ghost hanging in my head.
Listen, it's right, and you should be. But let's talk about these Rams. I see some people going, they've been hot lately. Let me show you the teams they played. They squeaked by the Seahawks 7-16.
Oh my God.
They destroyed the Cardinals 37-14.
The Cardinals, which just whooped the Eagles' ass. Don't do this.
But it wasn't that Cardinals team that was under Josh Dobbs. It was different.
That had Kyler Murray.
Right. True.
Kyler Murray just beat the shit out the Eagles. Stop it.
He was just coming back. He only went 3 points. He didn't beat the shit out.
But he embarrassed the fuck out of him. Go ahead, continue. Go ahead.
Then they played the Browns without
before Flacco got there. It doesn't matter. That defense, they still got 36 points on. Say something.
It's true. And then they played the Ravens tight, 37-31. Absolutely.
We lost by 6.
Then they barely beat my Commanders by a touchdown. They barely beat the Saints,
bro. They had a 2-point conversion on your ass.
It's a touchdown. It's a touchdown.
And the Saints, Dennis Allen needs to go, and Derek Carr is trash. What else you got?
That's fair. Dennis almost won the division. The Giants only by 1 point.
Well, that was embarrassing. That was embarrassing.
And they beat the 49ers by 1 point last week without any of the starters playing for the 49ers. Only by 1 point. So you talk about this idea that they're in this position, whatever, they're hot. Yeah, you look at W's, you can see some of these hot. But to me, I only point to that Ravens game where they went on the road and gave Baltimore all they could handle. That's a possibility for that Rams team for sure. If that Rams team shows up against Detroit, it's going to be a tough night. But I think the more likely Rams team that's going to show up is one that's going to make mistakes, and the Lions are going to be hungry to take advantage of them. So this isn't your daddy's Lions. This is not your daddy's Lions. Dan Campbell is a better coach. He has that team believing in itself. And every team that looks like that hasn't been great needs that one coach to come in and change the narrative. The Patriots were laughing stocks for decades before Belichick showed up. So
the other thing you have to remember, dude, because you tried to say, oh, you only beat the Niners by 1 point. I said this weeks ago. Yes, you did. You said you didn't play any of the starters, and you only beat it by 1 point. I said this weeks ago, and there were some Niner fans in here being like, "Shut the fuck up, we own the Rams, bro." Every single one of those games has been tight.
Yes,
they have every single one of those games has been tight. These young coaches, that know what they're doing, as division rivals. They see each other twice a year. They constantly play each other close because the first game was only by a fucking touchdown and Brock Purdy didn't throw one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like to sit here and act like the Rams do not know how to play the Niners, because they do. These keep coming down to essentially coin toss games. Yeah. So like, let's put some respect on the Rams in that they know how to play the 49ers.
Well, 49ers, sure, but they got to get through the Lions to do that. And I don't think they can. And I don't think
I do.
You do. And you, so we're divided on that one. All right. Our last playoff game here is what's left of the Philadelphia Eagles driving down the 95 to face Tampa Bay and the Buccaneers. This is an interesting game, bro. This is like the Miami Dolphins, Kansas City. I have no idea what's going to happen in this game. The Eagles could have been playing possum last game and just kind of gave up on and gave it to the Giants, knowing they couldn't win the division anyway. And so just kind of sat their players, rested them up, and they might show up and beat Tampa Bay. Baker's looked like dog shit the last 2 weeks, but he looked great beforehand. So I don't know what to expect from this game, man. So, I mean, I give it to the Eagles because they were in the Super Bowl, but it could be possible that Tampa Bay wins this game 38-10. I have no idea. What do you think?
I have absolutely zero faith in the Eagles at this point. And I think the only thing that makes it worse, to be honest with you, is what is the condition of Jalen Hurts and what is the condition of AJ Brown? I'm dead serious. And Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith was in like a walking boot and some crutches the week before. Did he play like this previous week or just now?
Yeah, but they took him out.
They took him out early, probably, especially once they saw the score was going the way it was going. They said, let's not run that risk. AJ Brown took that knee shot. That did not look good. He will probably play, but is he going to be explosive AJ Brown? Jalen Hurts had his middle finger on his throwing hand dislocated. Like, what are we going to see out of these offensive starters? Because the only thing that the Eagles have is their offense, and that's shaky at best. Their defense is so holy. It's on the lower end of all the different rankings for defenses. Sure. And you want to talk about somebody that has not been given his flowers or his respect? Mike Evans had an incredible 13 touchdown fucking season. With 1,200 plus yards, man. And Baker is out here in these streets with better numbers than Jalen at 4,000 passing yards over his 38 plus. 3,800 plus, his 28 touchdowns over 10 interceptions versus his 23 over 15. And I know you got to include his push touchdowns and all that. But Baker Mayfield had an incredible season, especially for the way people talk about Baker. So I think with the home game, with the Eagles looking hurt and or just looking very gettable as they have been for the last 6 games, they're 1-5 in the last 6 games. And Tampa Bay out here just feeling themselves. I got Tampa Bay taking this one, man.
Okay. All right. I think I'm going to lean towards the Eagles then, just to be a little bit different. Someone put up a stat, it was really funny on Twitter, that the Eagles are 1-5 since they got rid of their security guard on the sideline.
Because he wasn't out here hitting players in the knees like Tanya, like Tanya Harding, bro. I guarantee you that's why they finally caught his ass. And they're like, no, you ain't going to be putting hands on players, bro. You need to get the fuck up out of here.
So maybe they bring him back for this playoff game. I think I would. I would put him on the sideline.
He can. I thought the NFL banned him.
I think they were suspended for the season. Do the playoffs count as part
this is part of the season? This is bullshit. This is bullshit.
But anyway, so we'll see. But I just have a feeling the Eagles, there's something about championship pride, right? And I know Sirianni, people are now talking about should they fire Sirianni. I was like, they were in the Super Bowl last year. What's wrong with you? So give him another year, see what happens. But their offensive coordinator has not been great. That's been the problem, really. And the defense is banged up. And so it's going to be an interesting game. But as I said, the Bucs have not looked good the last 2 games. With the division in their hands, they look like they didn't even want to win the division. So this is going to be an interesting game, how it all goes down. And Baker, we know Baker can choke like nobody can choke. And so if the Eagles start to put the pressure on him, he starts throwing interceptions, what kind of Baker is going to show up? Is it going to be the Baker from the first part of the season or the Baker that showed up in the last 2 games? That's going to be telling to see who wins this game.
Same thing could be said about the Eagles. Which Eagles are going to show up? The ones that made it to the Super Bowl or the ones that lost to the Cardinals and lost to the Giants and lost to all these teams they had no business losing to?
It's a fair point. Absolutely a fair point. All right, let's move on. And as I said, I'll be watching these games. I'll do some of these live. I'll let you guys know. I'll announce it and whatever, but it'll be on this channel, having fun if you guys want to hang out and watch it with me. So I won't put the game on the screen because that'll get me a strike, but I will be watching the game and commenting on it on some of these games. Let's talk about some of these coaches here before we leave the NFL, Winston. Ron Rivera, much expected. He was fired and they completely cleaned house. Josh Harris hired 2 separate people to help him, Bob Myers and Chris Spielman, which is an interesting decision to take a basketball guy and a football guy to help us find a new head coach and new GM and all of this stuff. Arthur Smith was fired by the Falcons. Mike Vrabel was fired by the Tennessee Titans this morning. Pretty shocking stuff. And Belichick is apparently on the clock here. So any of these surprise you? What's your thoughts on any of these firings? Any feelings you have about these?
The only one that I am surprised at, because let's also throw in the ones that were already fired midseason.
Oh, right, sure.
And what are now up, obviously, sure. Frank Reich and the Panthers, Josh McDaniels out of the Raiders, though I really think you need to give that to Antonio Pierce. Like, give him the goddamn job. He earned it.
Yeah.
Brandon Staley being gone, and that being the actual high prize for most head coaches. The talk that, like, maybe if Belichick does leave the Patriots, he goes to Los Angeles, because that team is stacked. It's just been very poorly coached. Yeah. And I think that if you give a solid coach to, oh my God, Herbert.
Justin Herbert.
That's actually terrifying. Yeah. I genuinely believe he's just been bad because he hasn't been coached well. That's it. Because he's still been good while the team has been bad.
Yeah.
That being said, here's the coaching that I want to talk about. Why the fuck wasn't Dennis Allen fired? I'm dead serious. Dennis Allen and Derek Carr got to go.
Yeah, I mean, we're still early in the firing cycle.
So. Oh no! He's already been told that he's safe.
Okay.
But what's nonsense about that is if you watch the Saints this season, he should have been fired mid-season.
Right.
Let alone when you end up in a situation where your team, and I respect them doing that for their player, but when your team says he has go do the kneel out and they go, fuck that. And they do it anyway. And honestly, listening to Jameis talk about it, I know there's plenty of players like, no, that's dirty. You can get somebody here. You're fucking rude. I'm like, I'm sorry, bro. Like, they did that for their player. They did it as a team. It wasn't Jameis by himself. And again, what does that say about the coach?
Yeah, head coach.
That they don't give a fuck about him. And part of that, part of that is a situation where you ended up where both I think it's bullshit that Dennis Allen did not just back, like, yes, they disobeyed him, but to be like, I told them to kneel it out. They didn't do it. You look like a bitch.
It's true.
Like just there's a weird thing that, like, if somebody fucks up, you still just have you have your boys back, and you go, you know what? It was kind of wild that we did that. Probably should have done it from a different formation. Move on. Yeah. Sorry to Arthur Smith. It was a little disrespectful. Move on. Yeah. Instead, you go, that's not what I told them to do. You have just proven the locker room doesn't respect you. You don't deserve your job anymore. They already didn't, especially when you see the little subtweets that happened all year. And Derek Carr has played like ass. He decided he wanted to play good this game when it was already too late. And so, like, he got to go too.
Yeah.
So that is the firing that I want to talk about.
Okay. Fair
but
point.
I'm good.
Yeah, we'll see. He's sticking around. So, but other people that were fired today, the Jags, they fired their defensive coordinator, Mike Caldwell, and his assistants. So I guess that's Doug Peterson trying to keep his job by firing. You know how it works. When head coaches are on the hot seat, they buy themselves another year or a few games if they fire an offensive or defensive coordinator. In this case, it was a defense coordinator. Mike Caldwell is gone. But also the Giants defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale, has stepped down. He is resigning as defensive coordinator of the Giants. So that could be an interesting situation because he was having a rocky relationship with Brian Daboll. Mm-hmm. Does this mean Daboll is now going to bring in his own defensive coordinator that he wants to have in there and see if that works? Is this also another way for Daboll to buy himself another year with coaching these Giants? We'll see. But Belichick is the one that's the one shoe that hasn't dropped yet. He was supposed to meet with Robert Kraft, I think yesterday or early this morning. What do you anticipate will happen with Belichick? And where, if he's gone, which everyone seems to be saying, including Jay Glazer over there at Fox Sports, Do you think this is a done deal, and where do you see him landing? I know you mentioned Los Angeles, but is there any? I mean, a lot of people are suggesting Atlanta coming in here after Arthur Smith was correctly fired. Some people have suggested Washington. There's rumors that he could go to Chicago and coach up Justin Fields. They get rid of Eberflus. What are your thoughts here with Belichick? Where do you anticipate he'll go? Or will he go into broadcasting? What do you think will happen with Belichick?
I mean, I think it will depend on if he's just like, I'm tired, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I think the real interesting thing here is I think that Chargers job looks so good. You're in Los Angeles while LA does not respect the Chargers. Let's just be honest. And San Diego is mad that they left. You have a stacked team in a brand new stadium in one of the best cities in the country as far as just like continuous weather, the beach, all that kind of stuff. If you want to get into Hollywood for any reason, I think it's going to be a genuine like fight to the finish between Harbaugh and Belichick for that job. But I think that you have a solid building blocks and an excited new ownership in Washington. I think that is a very attractive job. I think that I think the Raiders job needs to be given to Antonio Pierce, but if they're not going to go that way, I think that is also an attractive job. Brand new stadium, you're in Vegas, all that kind of stuff. The only thing there, whether you take the Chargers or the Raiders, you're going to have to deal with Patrick Mahomes twice a year.
True.
So that's the other thing, that if you're willing to deal with the best quarterback in the game, arguably the second best to ever play at the rate that he's been playing, then you just know that that's a challenge you're going to have to get over. But to be honest with you, anywhere you go with any of these teams, unless you're going to go take either of the NFC South teams, all of these divisions are rough. The Titans just got shown that now with Stroud there and all that AFC South is not something you want to mess with. And the NFC East, yes, we go on roller coaster rides sometimes. We had that one season of the NFC East where we were all bad.
Yeah.
But even though the Eagles have been bad, the Eagles just went to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They have a lot of foundation there to be good. The Cowboys are always going to be good.
Yeah.
As far as this goes, whether or not we do anything with it is a different question, but we're always going to be good. And the Giants, you still have Saquon. They need to figure out their quarterback situation, but they have a tendency to right their wrongs and all that. So just understand, if you take that Washington job, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder if he signals he wants the Giants job, because there's a lot of legacy with him there in New York. So will he want to take essentially depose Daboll and take that job?
I could see him taking Tennessee, Washington, Tennessee or Washington, just from the standpoint of now he's not far from home. So like his family is already up there in New England. They don't really need to move. He can just be like, I'm going to be at work. I'll be back, on like Tuesday or some shit like that.
Right.
Go back and forth. It just depends.
Yeah, and if he goes to Washington, obviously he would be instrumental in selecting the quarterback. So is he going to find himself a little Tom Brady, a little diamond in the rough there? Maybe we don't even take a quarterback in the first round because Belichick has ideas or his eyes on other quarterbacks that are lower in the draft there that he thinks he can mold into a diamond. Who knows? So there's a lot of questions there with Belichick. We will see. They should fire Daboll, in my opinion, but I guess they're not. All right. Michigan won the national championship last night, Winston. They topped Washington. It was a pretty brutal game at the end, although it was tight for a majority of the game. In the end, Michigan just stomped them 34-13 in that final quarter. Just started piling on points here. Penix, as you mentioned earlier, was very, very hurt throughout a majority of the game. And the Wolverines, but all credit to Michigan, they looked up for it. They looked ready. They were hungry. Harbaugh had them ready, and they took care of business here with Donovan Edwards there, who was rushing. He averaged an astounding 17.3 yards per carry, finished with 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. But in the end, there's also questions about the sign stealing stuff, and they got the job done. They went undefeated wire to wire, but is there an asterisk around this national championship? And do you think Harbaugh will leave now that he's finally got a national championship for Michigan? What are your thoughts?
I think if you ever wanted an NFL job again, now's the chance.
Yeah.
You just won the national championship. There's obviously going to be a little like at the fact that that the whole sign stealing shit that was going on, but You will never find a better moment. Your stock would never be higher. This is how, and it's not even like he was really bad when he left. There was just a lot of kind of controversy in and out and all that. So
you mean when he left the 49ers, the Kaepernick and all that stuff? Yeah,
but he could have stuck it out and would have been fine.
Sure.
I think the Niners would have remained good, and I honestly think the Niners would have been just as good as they are now if Harbaugh had stayed. I just think that he was kind of done.
Yeah.
And so that's why he left and was like, I'm gonna go find something else. So I think he should. I honestly think he should. Okay. But we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening if Michigan makes him an offer he can't refuse.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan apparently wants to extend him for 10 more years, but in the contract, one of the clauses says that he cannot leave for the NFL. Like, he is barred from leaving for the NFL. So he would have to stay for the 10 years. Unless they fired him, he'd have to stay in that job as head coach of Michigan. So that's an interesting clause to put in a contract. We'll see if they could even make him stick to that clause. Who knows? Because it could be an ugly breakup. But I agree with you. Now would be the time to jump. You've finally won the national championship. You took this team to the playoffs 3 separate times, finally got the job done, undefeated season. Yes, and look, you took your punishment. He was ready to fight the sign-stealing punishment until the NCAA said, look at here, threw a folder on the table with all kinds of information. Then Jim was like, oh, okay, all right, I'll sit down. And so, there was the possibility of really getting found out here, and suspensions and all this stuff that could, and damaging the program, costing them scholarships. There probably was all of that in play here until Jim took the punishment. So the fact that they won the national championship gives him the easy out. I got the job done. I can leave. They can feel happy about a championship. I don't have to sit there and answer questions about sign stealing anymore. And I can move on to the NFL, where I went to a Super Bowl with the 49ers once before. Right. He could easily go to Washington, select a quarterback with that second pick, and roll on in there and hammer out an identity for these Commanders that could be really interesting to see under Magic Johnson, under Josh Harris. There's a very strong possibility he will end up in Washington. Or, that being said, he may stay in Michigan if it works out for him. He doesn't want to deal with the rigors of NFL, So
yeah, I agree.
I mean, because when coaches are in college, man, they're getting their asses kissed. When they're in the NFL, they're getting questioned all the time.
Chip Kelly.
Exactly. Jesus.
How you going to send Deshaun and LaShawn the fuck up out of there? What's wrong with you? the literal lifeblood beating heart of the team. Now, mind you, I do like Shady McCoy. He drives me a little crazy on speak because he's so anti-Cowboys, and I'm like, I need you to see the forest from the trees, bro. But I respect him, who he is as a player, and I thought that was. How dare you do that? But if it hadn't happened, he wouldn't have ended up both at Tampa Bay and at the Chiefs to win his 2 rings. So
that's a good point. All right, so get into the last story before we hit your Streamlabs, everybody. Grizzlies, Ja Morant is going to have season-ending shoulder surgery. Winston, this is a cursed kid, both his own doing and other things going on, as we were talking about here with his body. So, man, what are your thoughts on this with Ja Morant and what it means for the Grizzlies, who were looking to really kind of make a noise and get into these playoffs and possibly vie for a title here?
The Grizzlies ain't doing shit. Remember when he wasn't there? No. Remember when he wasn't there? They were the league's worst.
Yeah.
Literally.
Well, now
and it took him in his first game back at a buzzer beater for them to do something. So, like, I just think what essentially Ja Morant had a year-long suspension.
Yeah.
So I hope, and in that case, that's a universe suspension. So the first half was because of his direct actions, and a direct punishment from the league. This back half, the universe really hopefully getting something into his brain. I hope that there is some serious maturity happening. Not that he did anything in this exact moment.
Right.
I'm not gonna try and whatever, like he did some reckless play or anything like that.
Right.
But when you literally think about the situation of how we got to his suspension on the first half of the year, I hope, because there was a lot of maturing that I did having those surgeries and being couch ridden. I genuinely hope that some maturity gets into his body and he remains the same, like, attacking the basket, like Mamba mentality on the court.
Yeah.
But then he starts having a Mamba mentality about how he deals with life, where he takes the game more seriously, where he takes his opportunity to play in one of the greatest leagues on the planet more seriously. And that Ja Morant comes back. And obviously I want the Mavs to win as many titles as possible.
Sure.
But if it's in the cards for the Grizzlies to win them, because I do like Ja and how he plays the game, I hope that maturity leads him to titles on titles.
Yeah, and look, Ja Morant is coming off or starting in the first year of his contract, the extension that he signed here, a 5-year, $197 million contract extension. So a tough time for him to go out with that surgery. He was averaging 25.1 points and 8.1 assists per game in the 9 games that he played this season. But the Grizzlies are 13th in 13th place. So maybe this is the right time for him to go out now because Steven Adams is having season-ending surgery as well. So,
with Steven Adams and Morant out, you really are probably going to be the worst in the league. Your lottery stock just skyrocketed.
That's true.
So imagine having Morant, Adams, and then having a top 3, if not number 1 pick.
Sure.
Bro, like the Grizzlies could be terrifying and in an unfortunate way that we got here.
Yeah.
But god damn.
Could be crazy. Could be crazy for sure. All right, let's hit some of these Streamlabs before we roll on out of here so we can get on with the rest of our days. Doug Developer says, yes, you guys can scoff at the Jets for trying to trade Zach Wilson, but Favre was traded to the Packers for a first-round pick, even though as a rookie in Atlanta, he threw a pick 6, attempted 3 passes, which were all incompletions. Shrug, I remember us Jets fans crying that we lost out on Trevor Lawrence in 2020 because he was dubbed a, quote, generational talent. So far, he's just a nice player at best for the Jags. The draft is a total crapshoot. Good luck with the second pick, John. Yeah, no shit, Doug. I don't think the Jets are going to trade Zach Wilson. I put a gif of John Candy trying to sell his watch in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, his Casio. And that's essentially what the Jets are trying to do with Zach Wilson. No one's going to give them anything for Zach Wilson. They'll just wait till they waive him or whatever, and it'll be done. I'll tell you, Robert Saleh is in trouble here, man. I think if he doesn't make the right decisions at quarterback for next year, if Aaron Rodgers goes out again next year, this guy's done as the Jets head coach. I think he's finished. But because Zach has not improved at all, he didn't make executive decisions to get a better quarterback in there. And they could have had Flacco, and in the end, they had a pretty shitty season. So, what do you?
I hear you. I think the only thing about that, no. The only thing about that is that Saleh's. I would be more concerned.
Okay.
If that defense wasn't as good as they were. His side of the ball is the defensive side of the ball, and their defense has been good. I think it was a massive mistake to not go get whatever quarterback to try and hold you over and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So that's a different conversation. That's a conversation between him and the GM where I'm kind of looking at you like, but the defense did work that he had. I think he has enough of a cushion to make it through next year, provided that they, at least pull a wild card.
But that's not his job, though, Winston. Like defensive, yes, but he's the head coach, not the defensive coordinator. So
I understand
you got the defense worked out, but
I understand
the whole team,
I understand that, but even in like I'm trying to think of like some good examples of where that happens. So how many times did you see like a high flying offense out of the Rams and their defense just wasn't there, but McVay got to stay until like you really started to turn that around? You know what I'm saying? Like how many different scenarios have we seen that where the side of the ball that coach is very good at making sure is solid,
right? As
long as they within that year, because he's only been there, what? This is his second year?
Yes, second year. Yeah.
I think he has at least a full year, unless he goes like 0-5 to start. Yeah. Then you might have a different conversation. But like, I think he has at least next year, and as long as he pulls a wild card, I think he'll be fine.
And all you people deluded that the Jets were going to make the playoffs this year with Aaron Rodgers, you're crazy. I'm telling you, the Jets were going to get smoked eventually. Sean Brennan says, with the championship victory last night, do you think Harbaugh is going back to the NFL? Where would he fit best? Thanks for everything. Blood feud forever. Thank you, Sean. We answered your question, Sean. We talked about it here with Harbaugh, so hopefully that answers your question, brother man. Fred Tastic says, hey, game time. Happy my Cowboys won the East, but now the focus should be one game at a time, then slaying that San Francisco Dragon. Question, what is the most iconic jersey number in NFL history? For Dallas, it's 88 because of the legacy of players who wore it. Most iconic jersey. I mean, you would say in Major League Baseball, it's 42 because of Jackie Robinson. But in the NFL, it's a good question.
NBA, it fluctuates between 22 and 20 or 23 and 24.
Yeah,
because you can make the argument that like on top of the fact with the Kobe at 24, the idea of 1 over Jordan, that whole sort of thing. The 23 is definitely the number.
Yeah,
24 is like right. That's like a 1A 1B conversation potentially.
Yeah,
NFL.
I default to 7. I default to 7.
I default to 12, not just because of Brady, but because Aaron Rodgers didn't. What was Montana's number?
Montana was 12, I think, or 11, I think.
Yeah,
no, 16. Joe Montana was 16.
He was 16.
Yeah.
Let's. I'm so curious. Let's see. NFL.
Yeah. The most commonly used jersey number of the NFL is 21.
Jersey numbers. Let's see. Oh, not that. Most iconic. I should do that. Most iconic. NFL
11 most
jersey.
Well, that's college football
numbers.
Yeah, I don't. It's a good question. I don't know.
Okay, so let's see. 99's up there. A lot of defensive players love 99.
No surprise.
For sure. Let's see. Number 1 had what? Cam Newton is a big one. Warren Moon had number 1.
Oh.
Number 2 had Matt Ryan. I don't really care about that.
I think it's 12.
I think it's 12, dude.
Tom Brady,
12.
Aaron Rodgers, Terry Bradshaw, Jim Kelly, Joe Namath, Roger Staubach, Bob Greasy, Ken Stabler, and Randall Cunningham.
That's a lot.
12.
Because 8, you only have Steve Young, Troy Aikman, and Larry Wilson, which is huge. But 9 really is just Breeze. Yeah, dude. It's got to be 12.
Yeah.
It's got to be 12. Brady, Bradshaw, Kelly, Namath, Rogers, Staubach.
Yeah.
All 12. Yeah, it's got to be 12.
And then 88, you've got Michael Irvin, John Mackey, Lynn Swann, Drew Pearson, Dez Bryant, Demaryius Thomas, Marvin Harrison, Tony Gonzalez.
Lamb.
Mentioned left. And CD Lamb. Yeah, exactly.
It's 88 or 12. It's one or the other.
I think it's 12. Yeah.
I'm going to go 88 because I like more of the people on that 88 that you mentioned. There's a lot of Cowboys in there. But, like, who doesn't love Tony Gonzalez, and Lynn Swann? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy.
Tony G. All right. Well, there you go. And let's see if we got one more here. Oh, no, we have 2 more. Sorry. Dem Boys Suck. Go Browns donated and said, Winston, I'll see you in Cleveland for the Cowboys versus Browns this year. All love to you both and Happy New Year to you both. All love. Matt Thomas. Hey, Matt. Good to see you.
Little bitch. Now I hope the Browns lose. I was rooting for you. I take it back. I hope the Texans get in that ass.
Wait, why would you be in Cleveland? Cleveland doesn't have the number 1 seed. You would have to play in Dallas.
Cleveland. No. Cleveland and so it's they've released the 2024 where the games are, not the schedule.
Gotcha.
We play the AFC North next year.
Right.
And so by playing the AFC North, they've already determined that for the Browns, it is the Giants and the Cowboys will play in Cleveland.
Right.
And then the Browns will play in Philly and DC.
Crazy. Okay. Well, there you go. That was the last one we had. All right, let's wrap it up because I got to go rest before my live show here in 3 hours.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate you madly. I hope you had fun today hanging out with us and talking about some NFL stuff. And you're ready for Wild Card Weekend happening in just a few days. As I said, remember to come to pay attention to this channel. I'll be doing some live watch-alongs of those games. Come and hang out with me. Let's have pizza and Coke or soda together and have fun watching those games. Winston, a lot of fun with you, brother, man. Please let people know where they can find you and all you got going on.
Find me at the Swaggy Blurred on all the platforms, man. I've been doing my Breakfast AM news stuff. Check out my 2023 year-end wrap-up. That's been a lot of fun. And then, I'll be getting into stuff going on. I got to talk about Cat Williams. Like, Jesus.
Oh, my God.
Set the world on goddamn fire. So, check all that out. And then Capes and Cows on Fridays over on Christian Harloff's channel.
We got to start Spill the Horchata because, that fucking show alone would have
been insane.
Episodes. Episodes. And they're all defending themselves. So that tells me something too. Like, they're not ignoring Cat. Seeing all these comedians come out to try to defend themselves tells me the Cat does have a little bit of legitimate tea. And
Lord, bro. Lord.
As for me, you can follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, The Outlaw Nation on Twitch. Later on today at 4 o'clock, going live with the Hot Mic with Jeff Snyder, talking the Star Wars news, The Last of Us news, and our most anticipated films of 2024. All of that happening here in the next 3 hours. Come and hang out with us and let's have fun. And also later, going to see Mean Girls. God help me. So I will have
be great.
I will have an out of theater reaction for that one. I'm hoping it's good. I thought Wonka wasn't going to be good, and I loved it. So we'll see if I like this one as well. But look for that on my channel, which is at youtube.com/John Rocha Says. All right, y'all take care of yourselves. Be well. And we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode here of Game Time. Peace.